The first one is, of course, that a lot of people say, hey, I'm not buying the house because I need 20% to buy a home.
Sure. Definitely a myth, a misconception. I still, believe it or not, get that a lot, whether it's a conventional loan or any type of transaction. A lot of people or consumers or clients or even realtors might assume that you would need 20% down, but there's numerous options outside of that scenario. I mean, you could do 3% down as a first-time home buyer. Not only 3% down, you can combine that with potentially down payment assistance. So there are other options outside of 20% down. There's a ton of stuff. I could go on and on about the different types of loans. 3%, 5%, 10%. There's numerous options outside of 20% down for sure.
So, and what is the least down payment you can do?
Well, if you're a veteran, you can do 100% financing. And like I had said before, you could do as little as 3% down as a first-time home buyer, conventional loan, potentially with some down payment assistance where you would need no money out of pocket either. So there are other options. But veterans, the least amount down, 100% financing. First-time home buyers, as little as 3% down. If you're not a first-time home buyer, as little as 5% down. Investors right now, you're probably going to be dealing with 20% down straight across the board with the current lending environment, the way the economics are, but you might be able to do 15% down as an investor as well.
Perfect. So, and then talking about that, let's jump to another question, since we're talking about down payment. Mm-hmm. A lot of people also, there's another, you tell me myth or reality, it's that if you buy in a condo, specifically not a single family home, that you have to have 20 to 25%.
Yeah, that's the most prevalent nowadays, especially with what, happened unfortunately in Surfside. And there's just always been a misconception that, for example, if a condominium doesn't have sufficient reserves within their budget or their financials or something else is going on therein, you have a lot of listing agents that have listings that say, oh, cash only, or you need 25% down, or you need more money down. They're just not in the know, so to speak. They don't realize that there are other options if there's issues with the condo. And the biggest thing with condos and the down payment, of course, as we probably know, is budgets. Do they have sufficient reserves? That's 95% of the battle. If they do, great. We revert back to the lowest down payment scenarios, 3, 5, whatever the case may be. If they don't have reserves, you can get a little creative with a piggyback second mortgage. What does that look like? You do a 75% loan to value first. The remainder is a piggyback second that kind of works like an equity line of credit. So there are other options outside of that. Not only the reserves being a big thing, but now the assessments for structural work, passing the 30, 40, or 50-year certifications has become a big issue, and it's going to continue to get more difficult. Are there ways around that? Not really for traditional financing, but we do have options in the private sector for stuff to where, somebody didn't pass an association or building didn't pass the 50-year, they're doing work on the structure of the garage. That doesn't sound good, right? Well, we do have options outside of that.
So when you're saying, like the certification, are you looking, is it the building only becoming problematic if they going through that certification, or they're about to be due, or they're almost finished and we don't know if they actually going to pass it?
That's actually a great technical question, and it's a good one. So we only start having concerns in the event that they didn't pass.
Okay. So if they're going through
if they're preparing to pass and there's no violations and it's nothing over dramatic, like they've been flagged but didn't have a violation for severe structural issues, then a lot of times we can get around those things.
So as long as it's scheduled, association,
as long as they're taking preventative measures prior to that inspection happening and failing, there's good possibility that we'd be okay.
And so talk to me how you guys find out about those issues. So because we all know that 20 and 25% difference as a realtors, right? It's a questionnaire. So the questionnaire sometimes comes with some little thing of I had one time, I couldn't close with 20% because the boat dock was leased for a few units from a third party. It did not belong to HOA.
Lease.
And literally, my famous rocket mortgage just dumped us on the last day of closing. And we were not able to close, so we had to find a different lender to close this transaction to start with a limited questionnaire from the beginning.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the limited questionnaire, full review.
There's a lot going on there, and it's another thing that's a great question. And it kind of parlays into the numerous scenarios if a condo is financeable or not, such as do they have reserves? Is there litigation? Are there assessments? Did they not pass the 30, 40, or 50-year inspections with the city or county or whatever? So it's complicated. There's just numerous ways this could go. What was the question again?
So the question was like, what's the difference in between, like a partial,
Oh,
like how
yeah.
do you know when
So I
sometimes
can't-
you have to do 25% to
Great.
do the
Great.
partial?
Yeah, I can't speak on other lenders, but if you want to talk about true traditional conventional financing with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, condo questionnaire actually isn't required ever. So there's just a few questions that need to be answered, and it's considered a full condo review. If the association answers those questions via email or verbally, we'll do a certification and sign off and move on.
So it's different lender to lender.
That is correct. Most lenders are going to request that actual document that's, somebody working at the association or at the front desk of a property management company is going to puke, right? They're like, oh, this is going to take forever. It's $500 to fill it out. Oh
Correct.
my God, the world's going to end. So just a few tidbits on a full review. We're going to ask questions first with the association. We're going to say, hey, is there any litigation? Do you have any ongoing assessments? If you have assessments going on, for what? Structural? Did you not pass something? What's going on? Does one entity own more than 20 or 25% of the development? And I don't remember what else is the reality of it. And we're going to look at the budget
Like how many
too.
investors, how many...
That actually only
homeowners?
matters if somebody's buying as investment. That's another myth, because a lot of clients, individuals, realtors, or consumers, whatever, they think that if the development has a tremendous amount of tenants, aka more than 50%, that you have an issue getting financing full, limited, or whatever the case may be. It's not a reality. If somebody's going to occupy the property, the tenant to owner occupancy ratio doesn't matter. It could be 95% tenant occupied. Now, if somebody's buying for investment, it's got to be under that 50% threshold. With that, we go by what the appraiser says. And I think we might know the appraiser's probably not going to do their homework, and they're going to put whatever the heck that they think might be a realistic figure. And that's the thing, we don't walk necessarily a severely fine line or live in a gray area or anything like that, but there's things that are allowed and things that aren't allowed, and we abide by what's actually allowed, which meaning you don't need a condo questionnaire ever. Now, 50% of the time, the association answers the questions, or we call them, butter them up, then they answer the questions appropriately. Sometimes they won't. We're not going to answer your 5 stupid questions. Give us $500 for a condo questionnaire, and then we have to go down that road. So...
Well, everyone wants to justify their time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. And that's really just, a lot of property management companies and associations just have a standard, protocol for stuff like that. And we get it. And we try to avoid that as much as we possibly can, because those things just take too much time. I mean, we're severely into following up with associations and or management companies or whatnot on a daily basis, sometimes twice a day, just to move through the condo piece, because most lenders can't, aka Rocket Mortgage. Being somebody in Detroit, with a headset on or a telemarketer or whatever division they have there, to chase down an association in South Florida,
It's pretty hard.
yeah, right. It's just not going to happen.
We can't find them in person.
You as a realtor are going to have to do that work, really, at the end of the day, if you're
Pretty
dealing
much.
with Rocket Mortgage or the bigger lenders, because they're just not going to attack the association like we would on the lending side.
So,
And that's not time best served for you now, is it?
and they don't have any time, like they don't have a deadline, right? They don't have anything they have to deliver the questionnaire by, or they answer those questions.
Who? The lender? Or?
The HOA, like when you send it to them.
They really don't. I mean, it's just, whenever they feel like it. They have turn times a lot of times where they're like, hey, pay for a rush for an extra 150. You get it in 5 days. If not, it's going to take 3 weeks. So it just depends on the association itself.
Okay.
But the biggest thing in lending is always condos. That's the most cumbersome scenario out of all of them. That's why we brought you guys the condo presentation when we did.
Well, and I
3
think
weeks back.
that's where, like you coming, for me, that's the strongest play for you. It's like, give me the complicated condo and I'll get it done.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you just have to follow up and be aggressive with what you're doing. And that's not only with the condo world, that's with anything when it comes to lending. People drag their ass. They drag their feet.
That's why you're great.
Yeah, right.